Welcome. This is new on Netflix UK. This is a completely unofficial, please don't sue us, podcast with the Two Robbies. Although for the reasons of confusion, I'm going to be Robbie and Rob is going to be Rob. Happy with that, Rob?
I'm very happy with that, yes.
Okay. The plan is that we will be looking at some of the new stuff on Netflix about once a month. We're going to pick some of the gems. So I'm not going to ramble on with, various irrelevant tales. So I think we should just get on with it. Shall we?
Well, what have you been up to recently?
You don't care. So the first thing we both looked at was we've looked at the same stuff for comparison and for some heated debate. The first is Dumplin.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to play a clip.
I don't know how I'm going to survive my mom's pageant season. She already started her diet. Oh, really?
Dumplin, the other side. Oh, okay, darling, just grab my ankles.
Okay.
Oh, God.
My name is Willadine Dixon.
Hey, Willadine.
Hi, Bo.
Tumble out of bed and stumble to the kitchen. Most people call me Will, except for my mom, who calls me
Dumplin, I can't be late. This cannot exactly drive itself.
So, Rob, can you give us a bit of a synopsis?
So, Dumplin is a film set in small town Texas in the United States. And Dumplin, so called, I've forgotten the character's name. I'm supposed to know all this stuff, aren't I?
Willadine.
Willadine. Well done. Yeah, it's Willadine.
Yeah.
It's a young girl called Willadine. She's basically it's effectively a film without mincing words about body image. And Willadine, as has been said in the film numerous times, is a larger girl and often has this commented upon, as you might expect, by people in quite a cruel way. And so her mother, played by Jennifer Aniston, is an ex-beauty queen pageant winner who is surprised to find that Willadine wants to take part in the same beauty pageant that she won all those years ago. So the film's premise is basically Willadine trying to prove, not just to her mum, but also to a number of people in her school and obviously her friendship group and all those kind of people, that she can be a beauty queen in the beauty pageant. And to cut a long story short, obviously there are ups and downs, highs and lows. But it's generally and genuinely a very feel-good film. It's basically, if you want something that is going to brighten your mood and isn't going to challenge you that much, to be honest, it's a good thing to watch. I found that the almost, encyclopedic knowledge of Dolly Parton and her music and all of her oeuvre, if you will, all of the stuff that she's created and the sort of mini subculture that there is in America for Dolly Parton was omnipresent. That was almost the entire intention of the film. It feels like the person who made the film clearly is a massive Dolly Parton fan, I think.
Yeah, there was a lot of Dolly, which was good. It kind of kept the pace up.
It did, yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of what they did in a way. They kind of threw Dolly in whenever they weren't quite sure what to do next. But I mean, for all that, it didn't feel like there were lots of seams. It felt we could relate to all the characters. The journey that she was going on might be in some ways a bit cliched. It's not about what's outside, it's what's inside, all that kind of stuff that you often see Hollywood trying to kind of promote as a message. And in many ways, I think it stands up for itself. It stands on the success of its main actors. I think they're all convincing in their roles. Sort of the best friend of Willadine is someone who kind of is more, traditionally attractive, and therefore kind of at one stage goes off with someone else, and there's a bit of a friendship. Are we going to be friends? Sort of thing going on. You might think listening to this is all very predictable, but actually it's just the style of it. It really, really throws caution to the wind and goes for the whole.
I guess it's slightly more indie than it's not your normal kind of rom-com. It wants to be a bit more sort of Sundance or whatever it is, slightly more quirky.
I think that's definitely the case. It's slightly below the radar and slightly left field. And for all that, it's really worth it. And it is also about the sort of typical, small town life, how people in communities that don't always accept difference, don't always accept people for who they are, how to respond to that, I suppose. And yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't have said going into the film that I was going to enjoy it, but I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's not a 5-star film; it's a 3-star film. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with it. It's well made, production's good, and generally speaking, all the way through, you're not thinking, I want this to end. You're thinking, this is all right, I'll carry on. And that's all you can really say about something like this. I think it's not aiming for the stars. It's just aiming for, to give people an enjoyable experience and give them a bit of a boost, a bit of a lift. It's that kind of film.
So we don't have any listeners, and in all likelihood never will have. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read out a very bad and a very good review from IMDb. All right. So these are not professional reviewers, but they tend to really go for it. Okay. So this is the 1 out of 10. The headline, bad message, 2 exclamation marks. What do you think when you see someone with 2 exclamation marks? Usually I stop reading.
Well, yes, either I stop reading, or I just think idiot. I'll be honest with you.
Or just maybe like leant on the keyboard too long. Anyway, acting was awful. Not even Jennifer Aniston could have saved this atrocity. I mean, the word atrocity.
Jennifer Aniston is one of the weaker links in it, I would say. I mean, I think it's a young cast. It's like, obviously it's the friendship group of Willow Dean, and I feel like some of those actors in the younger cast could go on to greater things. With the greatest respect to Jennifer Aniston, as much as she's been in some good films and she's done some good performances, I wouldn't say she's an A-list Hollywood actor. So
come on, Rob. I mean,
well, she's not. She's had that
then?
sort of middling sort of career.
Come on. If Jennifer Aniston turned up in your town, right?
Yeah,
it would go crazy.
Well, people would go crazy because she's famous, but that's the point. Not the point I'm making, is it? I'm making a point.
I think she's A-list. I think.
No, not an A-list actor. I think. Okay, we're not talking like Daniel Day-Lewis. We're not talking Meryl Streep, are we?
But here's the test, right? If my mother has heard of somebody, they are A-list, right?
Okay, maybe I've got the terminology slightly wrong, but yeah.
What you're saying is that she's unlikely to win an Oscar.
Yes, she will never win an Oscar. But she's dependable in the same way that all of the cast of Friends, are dependable.
Right, let me read a bit more of this trolling. The message in this film, I'm reading this now, this isn't me, is what really annoys me. Yes, we are beautiful in all different sizes, but obesity is a health problem. End of story. I am sick and tired of it being glorified in movies. No different than showing a young girl with bulimia, anorexia, and accepting it. It goes on that sort of tone.
God.
Now, I did raise a question for me.
Yeah.
Do you think there was a point in that film where they were mocking overweight people?
I think it did tread a fine line, but I think it
was tempted.
It was tempted to, but it didn't. I don't think it crossed the line. I would say that I think its tendency was to kind of just say, it's almost like the whole film is saying, look, you just have to accept this person. It's almost like that's the moral message. You have to accept this person. And it wasn't making either a negative or a positive comment about her weight.
It was what it was. All right, here's the 10 out of 10 from someone called Amstedelstein or something.
Yeah.
Warm and perfect. That's what the headline is.
Right. Sorry. You weren't just describing how you feel right now.
No, this is it. It starts off. I feel this is probably a deep South accent, because they start by saying, "Damn, Julie Murphy,
oh God,
you wrote. I won't do this. You wrote every fat girl's story. I knew this going into the movie tonight. This cold December night, I tucked myself into bed with a box of tissues, some pizza, and my cat. I was prepared." Ready to experience one of my favorite books on the big screen, quoting marks, not to mention all the Dolly and Jennifer Aniston my heart desired. Well, Julie, I cried the entire time. Mission accomplished. Job done. Well done. The movie is as bright, delicious, and strong as the book, with a little extra sparkle and zoosh.
Zoosh.
They spelled Z-H-U-Z-H. What's that word? Zoosh?
I think that might be an Americanism that we just don't quite
know
say.
that one. Anyway, the gist of it is...
Pizzazz, something like that.
This is what more I was getting to. I hope everyone out there takes a minute to think about the fat girl inside of yourself, whatever that means, and think about fondly wishing her luck on her mission to finding out who she is on purpose. I think my feeling about this film is that it's about female relationships and coming of age. That's kind of the gist of it. And it's the body image stuff is a bit of an aside. I think it's more about friendship. That's my feeling.
Of course it is, but I think it's the way for me. That issue was very obvious from the start, though. Still, as the kind of, I suppose you're right. It is sort of a backdrop more than the crux of the film. But at the same time, I do feel, I mean, in a better film, in all honesty, it might have been treated in a different way, and actually, perhaps in a more realistic way about the way that actually that does massively impact on someone's life as they're growing up. Whereas I felt, as you say, it was more the friendships that she wasn't able to have, not that she wasn't quite having. Yeah. You've made me think.
I've got two surprises for you now. Not really surprises. Right. First of all, this is going to be our regular feature. It's going to be Rob guesses the IMDb score. And it needs a title, that feature, I'll admit. But you understand the premise. And so, Rob, I'm assuming you've not yet looked. I'd like you to guess what score Dumplin receives so far.
It's a something, right? So
yeah.
6.7.
That is a very good guess, Rob. 6.9.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So I slightly undercut it, but
my rule in our house is that I watch anything that's 7 or above
on IMDb.
Yeah, if something gets a score of 7 or above, I think it's worth watching, and I'm going to let this sneak through.
Yeah,
here's my other surprise.
It is about the cusp of what you would.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was, and actually rom-coms often get quite a harsh review on IMDb. I've noticed.
It's not a rom-com. I wouldn't say that's a rom-com.
No, but I mean, it describes it as comedy, drama, musical.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing we haven't said actually. Obviously with the Dolly Parton content, there's a lot of musical numbers, a lot of that kind of pizzazz show business kind of thing. Yeah. Which is, if that's your cup of tea, you'll absolutely love it.
It certainly wasn't Roma. Anyway, we'll move on to Roma later. So I've written, Rob, you'll be pleased to know. This may not be a regular feature, but I've written a poem for my review of this film. Do you want to hear it?
Which film? Dumplin?
The Dumplin.
Go on, yeah.
I was going to do a bit of preamble, but I think I'm just going to get to it.
Just launch in.
Jennifer, since Rachel, I've been a big fan. So I've written a poem to win you over. At least that's the plan. Sure, the bounty hunter will go down as a maybe. But do you remember the hilarity when Ross and Rachel had a baby? The only problem is that nothing rhymes with Aniston, apart from a thrush cream branded as Caniston. So perhaps I will focus more on the facts of the film Dumplin and its 3 different acts. McDonald and Aniston barely know each other, despite being a teenage daughter and her mother. Willowdean enters a pageant, but fit in, she does not. At this point, it gets a bit ropey, but it's needed for the plot. At first, I feared...
Is this going to carry on?
Yeah. Maybe not for every single thing I've watched. Anyway, let me... Right.
Keep going, sorry to interrupt.
At first, I feared they would be mocking Willowdean, which I felt would be unnecessarily mean. And yes, one of the characters didn't really fit, but I certainly wouldn't say Dumplin is a bad film. Because the makeup in the film was not Maybelline, but a story of a mother making up with a daughter called Willowdean.
I can't. That is. I mean, that is a lovely thing that you've done there.
Thanks.
I'm very impressed, and I expect this every time we.
I've done one for Roma. I gave up on the Sunderland documentary.
When do you find time to write poetry, Rob? That's amazing.
I mean, that's a question, isn't it? Because I complain about having no time, and yet I find time to write poems about Jennifer Aniston. There's a hypocrisy there. There's an inconsistency in my life. Right. Anyway, I think we will brush that aside. And
so
we will...
can I give it a mark out of 10 myself? Or
you can do that? Yeah, go for it.
I'd give it a 6 out of 10.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stick with what IMDb suggests. I think it's a 7, a solid 7.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So the second thing we're going to do is a Northeast football special. So we're going to do some TV, some films in this. I'm more of a TV type person. Rob's more of a pretentious film person.
Yeah.
And so I watched the first episode of Sunderland Till I Die. And Rob, what did you watch?
I watched Bobby Robson, More Than a Manager, which you might think has nothing to do with the Northeast, but in fact, Bobby Robson was from the Northeast and managed Newcastle United, and that's a large part of the story.
Very good. Okay, well, do you want to go first?
I will, yeah. So Bobby Robson, if you didn't know, managed the England football team at the 1990 World Cup. That's probably what he's most famous for. And of course, England, as they nearly always do, went out on penalties. So it's basically it's what you might say a typical Talking Heads style documentary where you get a lot of notable people. So they've got Ronaldo, they've got Jose Mourinho, they've got Sir Alex Ferguson, all these kind of luminaries of the football world turn out and give their opinion on Bobby Robson, and obviously it's a unanimously positive opinion. He's seen as this great statesman of football, that he's liked by everyone. He's passionate about the game. And obviously, he got really good results because he had a successful club career as well as being the England football manager. And basically, if you're interested in the life of someone who basically committed his whole life to something that he cared about, which was football, might think for some people who don't like football, that's a bit stupid. But that is basically what the film is about. And I watched this with Anna, my wife, and she sat there and watched it. And I was really surprised that she was still sitting there by the end of the film, which is some testament, because she has no real interest in football, some testament to how compelling it is. It just tells his story in a very, very careful and methodical way. And it keeps flashing forward and back between different eras. So he started off at Ipswich Town and made them a really good smaller club, on the up. And then he went and managed England eventually, and then went back to via Barcelona, where he was unceremoniously dumped, really, and then went back to Newcastle United, where he was born and brought up, and became their manager towards the end. And he still remains the only Newcastle United manager that I can remember in my lifetime who actually did well with the club.
Well, hang on a minute.
Well,
what about?
Go on.
Kevin Keegan, I would love it.
Well, Kevin Keegan, you could argue, also built on the success of previous managers, but also
come on, give him some credit.
I'll give him the credit that he okay. So they got their highest league position when Kevin Keegan was manager, but I don't think, for me, that is what Newcastle United. If you know any of the history of Newcastle United, and I don't want to get into a big football chat here too much, but is that they've been
listening to the football podcasts. There's not enough of those.
Yeah, no, not at all. But it's been terribly managed, not from the manager's position itself, but from the ownership perspective. And Bobby Robson, this is what the film argues, and I think it does it convincingly, was the only stability that club's had in the last 40 years. And yet they still got rid of him. They still saw reason that he wasn't going to be the manager. And it ends very sadly because Bobby Robson died of cancer, right?
I think so.
Yes,
I believe so.
And his last sort of years were, fundraising and actually championing that as a cause. And it just comes across that he's the kind of person who is actually deserving of this kind of film. I think sometimes these things do get, they're a bit hagiographical, if you know what that term means. So they make sort of making him out to be a saint rather than another person. And his his style as well, I think, is the thing that sets him apart from what we see in the rest of the football world. And maybe we all have this image of football as being, prima donnas, and the managers as being temperamental and stressed and always. And it was so on the level with people, that I think that is what makes it such a compelling watch. His personality just wins out. And so I would recommend watching it. I wouldn't say, interestingly, if I compared it to Dumplin, which I know we're not doing, but if I compared it to Dumplin, I probably enjoyed Dumplin more, but I found there was a lot more nourishing about the Bobby Robson documentary. I thought it gave me something that I didn't realise I had, that the memory of this person that was sort of a peripheral figure. I didn't really know who he was, but then I got this sort of new perspective on him. So in that regard, I think it's worth watching.
And the fact that your wife sat through it,
yeah,
I mean that's good, isn't it? Because that's always the good test of a sports-related TV program.
And we didn't start at like 7 o'clock at night either. We started watching it about 11 at night, and we
11 o'clock, Rob.
I know it exists, right? 11 o'clock.
Well asleep, man.
I think it was Friday though. I think it was a Friday night.
It makes no difference. Children don't understand that, do they? Anyway, enough of my woes. Great, thank you. So I watched Sunderland Till I Die, the first episode of it, which, again, in Northeast football, but it's obviously the other big team in the area.
Yeah.
And it's the story of their last season, 17-18 season.
Yeah.
And it's done in quite a sort of glossy way. They're wanting to really kind of make this quite dramatic, and it's not really the talking head type of thing. It's more sport as drama, and they want to make quite clear from the outset that football is religion to people in that area, to a lot of people, to the extent, and it's so sort of unsubtle, it starts with a church service. And I'm not quite sure on what this service is. It seems like a sort of blessing for the club type service, where this, I assume, Church of England vicar is kind of going through these slightly strange intercessions where he's sort of praying for the wellness of the club and all this sort of stuff. But the point they are kind of making is that if they have success on the field, then it'll bring prosperity to this area, which is relatively poor. And so it starts with this kind of, the first episode is all about the pre-season. They've just been relegated, but there's this kind of optimism with the new manager mixed with this reality and this sort of feeling that it's all about being passionate and being ferociously, supporting this club. And then the main sort of twist within the first episode is about one of the players being caught in a sort of minor scandal. And
what did he do?
Well, he was sort of bad mouthing some of the other players, which was filmed in a nightclub sort of thing. And this is sort of juxtaposed. It kind of showing that he's got the passion that they want to have, but other players maybe haven't, and how they're going to deal with all this. And I think the thing about this is, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I didn't plan to watch any more of it, but it had a good test. Is on Netflix, obviously, it starts the next program automatically, so you can end up sitting there for too long. The next episode started, I really wanted to watch it. The slight problem I have with these sort of things is that I know the result. I kind of know what's happening at the end. I kind of know what happened. I roughly know what happened to their season, because
is it spoilers if we say?
Well, I think it would to an extent. I mean, it's a bit stupid because obviously it would take you 2 seconds to find out. Yeah. But if I hadn't known what was happening, I would know that it's going to be a really good series. But because I kind of know what's going to happen, the kind of twists and the turns, I now sort of feel, I might watch it. But in a way, I think you might get more out of this if you don't know anything about football, which is a bit weird. Yeah. Because it's not really just loads and loads of shots of groins and, free kicks and arguments about VAR and stuff.
There's a theory that if you're truly going to really see something, a film, a TV show, whatever, you have to kind of know as little as possible. So, for instance, in the cinema recently, the film "Sorry to Bother You" came out, and it's one of those films where I just don't want to know anything before I go in, because what I'm about to see is bizarre and fantastical and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely a thing going on within, not just within film and TV criticism, but just generally in culture, is that people are saying, actually, I want to know as little as possible. I want to just enjoy it for what it is. And
if you're going to watch something regardless, I can't see any point in watching the trailer. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to, I don't know, when the next Star Wars film comes out, I'm going to watch it. Yeah. I don't really want to see anything of it in advance, because it'll just be much better if I know nothing about it. I know other people just want to watch as much as they can in advance, but so many trailers just show you so much.
It's true. I mean, I've seen trailers this year. I do watch a lot of trailers, and the vast majority give really key plot points away. Not stuff that happens in the first 10 minutes. That's fine. It's the stuff that happens, at the midpoint. Basically the turning point of the film is revealed. And you're like, well, that's not helpful to anyone.
You need to stop this addiction, Rob. What are you doing? Just sitting at home, just watching trailer after trailer, knowing it's going to ruin you.
Which is better? Is it better to do trailers or poetry?
Right, there's no need. This, Rob. All right.
Right. So, are you going to give me some reviews of these, or have you not got reviews of these ones?
Reviews of what ones?
That's in the IMDb reviews. You got them?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did you want to say anything else about Sunderland Till I Die?
Well, no. There's not as much waffle about Sunderland Till I Die. There's only 3 reviews, 2 8 out of 10s. No, an 8 out of 10 and 2 10 out of 10s. Right. Whereas Dumplin, I feel there's a lot more to say about it. Yeah. Anyway, Sean Martin 88147. I don't know what that means, if it's his PIN number or something. The best football fly on the wall series I've ever seen. It had everything. It was amazing. I've just remembered, Robbie. There was a documentary series about Sunderland before, when it was Peter Reid who was managing them. This was 10, 15 years ago. It was on BBC, or I think it was on BBC. Was Peter Reid the one that said, "Do I not like that"? Was that him?
No, that was Graham Hayden.
Yeah. All right. Showing off my Peter Reid was always quite a sort of curmudgeonly character, though, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he is a bit. He's a bit of a curmudgeon, yeah. But so this what's his name? 256, whatever his name was.
Sean Martin.
He's saying it's the best he's ever seen, but how many has he seen? I mean, that's the question.
Doesn't say. He should really list it, shouldn't he? He doesn't give enough information. The best and only football fly on the wall documentary I've ever seen. But he does say, he expands on it and says it had everything. Oh. It was amazing.
Okay, good.
So even if he had seen only one, the fact that it had everything,
okay,
and it was amazing, must tell you a lot. Right, I think we should move on to Roma.
Are we doing marks? Are we doing marks for that one? No, we're not doing marks.
I'm not so keen on giving marks for things. It just seems a bit, you know what I thought about doing? If it wasn't,
I love giving marks for things. It's our first clash, our first on-air clash.
What do you remember? Live and Kicking, when they used to do hit, miss, or maybe.
Oh yeah. Oh, maybe we should do that. Yeah.
But do you think the BBC would bother to sue someone that was using a format from 20 years ago?
I don't think so, and I don't think they probably registered it as a trademark or
hit, miss, or maybe.
I think we can use that. So what are you saying? Are you going to say that's a hit then?
Oh, it's a hit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a hit. It's really well done. It's very slick. It's easy to watch. I think I just sort of wish I didn't know as much about football, strangely.
And I'd give Bobby Robson a hit as well. Yeah.
That sounds a bit... Anyway.
Nothing to do. No, forget it. Just move on.
Okay, so our final new thing on Netflix this month. There's been quite a lot about this because it's quite unusual. It's because it's like Dumplin. It's a Netflix film. It's not like a film that's been added to Netflix. It's an original Netflix film. But it's So Roma is the film. What did you think, Rob?
Well, I have only just watched this literally 2 hours ago. I finished watching it, and I mean, Alfonso Cuarón is the director of some incredible films already: Children of Men, Gravity, Birdman. So some of the sort of bigger sort of credible hits of the last sort of 10, 15 years. And so every time he releases a film, it's a big deal. I would say this is on a different scale to the scale that he's used in other films. But the key thing that he uses in his cinematography and the way that he films things is this incredible sort of panning shot where he moves the camera all around the action. Probably the most obvious example is in Gravity, where at the beginning of the film is this incredible, obviously CGI shot that just goes all the way around this space station, shows you everything that happens. And so he continues with this film, that tradition and that style, and it's absolutely incredible to watch, I think. I am actually regretting the fact that I've not seen this in a cinema, because I think that would add so much more than watching it on the small screen.
Yeah.
Having said that, it takes a while to get going. I think this film, it's not. I wouldn't say it's either an art house film or a mainstream film. I wouldn't see it in those terms. I'd see it as something somewhere in the middle of those. In that it's got a very accessible storyline. It's a semi-autobiographical story from Cruel Warren's childhood. So it's the Roma of the title is the area of Mexico City that he grew up in. One of the communities there, and it basically portrays the feelings and emotions effectively of the maid who serves the household, which is made up of mother, father who absents himself, isn't really a sort of a factor in that house during the film. And the four kids, grandmother, and the two sort of maids who look after and nanny the kids effectively. And what's so amazing about the film is it just follows this maid who has incredibly traumatic experience as the film progresses, without going into detail, and how she sees the world. But at the same time as that, you're also seeing this incredible background of a creative world where so much stuff is going on. There's always something to look at in the picture. And there's a moment where the maid goes to this really rundown town that hasn't got any roads. It's all muddy, and she arrives on the bus to try and find someone she needs to find. And just in the background, there just happens to be a sort of circus going on, and someone is like being shot out of a cannon. And I literally had to. It was good actually in a way that I saw it on Netflix, because I could rewind and go, did that actually just happen? That someone in the background pops out.
I somehow managed to miss that.
Oh, well, that's that. But that I think is a case in point, is that you will miss things if you're not watching carefully, which is in some ways a good thing about the film. And another way it's frustrating, because you're going through going, I don't know what to look at. But then, yeah.
I mean, as you'll hear from my poem, one of the other reasons to watch it in the cinema is that you can't really afford to look away and stare at your phone for 10 minutes, because you miss quite a lot. Even though it kind of feels a little bit slow because of those panning shots, there's quite a lot to sort of take in. And of course, it's not English.
Yes, so that was a factor for me. I felt that was quite hard with this film. I wouldn't want to put people off watching it, because I think it's really an incredible film. But I do think you have to be pretty focused on it to kind of get the most out of it. But I think what he does so simply is he just sets scenes up that a matter of fact, sort of just common scenes that might happen to anyone. But because they're so sparingly told, that there's no editorializing on what's going on. You're just viewing it, and then it happens, then you move on to the next thing. It has a sort of implicit power, is that you're able to kind of see the emotion of the characters at the same time as seeing this amazing vista and there's amazing shots to see. There's amazing shots of, as I said, this town. There's amazing shots at one point as it swoops around to look at a massive protest that's going on right outside the window.
Yeah, that bit was good. I thought that was pretty good.
It just boggles the mind how all of this stuff is set up. I mean, on Children of Men, just to get a bit fanboy for a second, he set up this one shot that they did over and over and over again. And on the last take, a blood squib went off and actually splattered over the camera. So like fake blood splattered over the camera. But it was the only last chance they had to get it. So he had to leave it in. But this incredible sort of painstaking, this person's got to move there, this person's got to move there, all that stuff, just, it does boggle my mind. And it just shows that, I mean, filmmaking is an art. It's hard. It's not a straightforward process. And just to bring it all together in this way is, I just think, phenomenal.
I mean, it is, I would say, this is very much a film nerds film. If I tried to show this to my wife, she would not be impressed.
Why not though? I mean, I just go back to what I was saying. I don't think it's not at the sort of art house end of art house, if you know what I mean. It's more that you can understand and relate.
Well, I mean, the storyline is fairly easy to follow, quite straightforward, but the shots are quite slow.
Yeah,
it's not in English, which, you know, I'm not saying that you can't watch foreign films, but it's, you know, it's I think, as you'll see from my poem,
you really want to get to this poem, don't you?
I've got into this very bad approach to films where they don't have my full attention. And I'm sort of doing other stuff, and it's kind of I treat things as kind of throwaway stuff to entertain me for 5 minutes. But this film kind of needs a lot more, and I feel like if I was back at university where I was a bit like you, a bit more pretentious, a bit more sort of, I'm going to watch the loads and loads of films, all that stuff. I just think I would have loved it. Anyway, do you want to hear the poem, or do you want to hear a couple of reviews from?
I'd like to take back you. First of all, I'd like to take back calling me pretentious. but no, yes, I'd love to hear the poem. Just do the poem.
You want the poem first?
Going to be the highlight of the show. So go on.
I sort of feel these poems need some appropriate music in the background.
Well,
anyway,
do you want me to play the guitar or anything?
This is called Song for Roma. It's not called Song for Roma. Anyway. Rob will love this one, I can confidently say, because for a start, it's foreign and grey. Me, I'm afflicted with doing two things at a time. I know it's improper, but it isn't a crime. And so I watch films with one eye on another screen. Please don't think less of me, Rob. I know it's obscene. But this film requires your complete attention with its slow panning shots. And it's not English, did I mention? Every shot is like a photographic competition. The lighting and sound deserve better than a television. But did I love it, or would I prefer to bin it? I certainly liked most of it, but it's not laugh a minute. One final thing, which I wonder if you've seen, is the warning that there is product placement on the screen. I didn't see anything. Am I alone? Was there a Big Mac ad whilst I stared at my phone? So it's a masterpiece. It's beautifully done. But if you're planning a first date, I would say it's not the one.
That is a beautiful poem.
So this product placement thing, right?
I didn't hear this. So what was this?
I think they're obliged to do it. On the screen, it pops up at the top left-hand corner, and it said, "This film contains product placement."
I like that. That's what you noticed. That's the thing that you picked out.
I always, because then I look for it. I look for the product placement. Because I noticed that the Grand Tour, which is not Netflix, we're not interested. But anyway, on Prime, the sort of
what?
The Grand Tour with Jeremy Clarkson and not Top Gear, definitely not. Anyway, that's got product placement in as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
I was merely pointing out that you were naming other streaming.
I know. Yeah. No. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Let's focus on. No, but we don't work for Netflix. We say what we want, but we're losing our USP, aren't we? Anyway.
Yeah.
So the point is, why have product placement in this film? You know, Netflix have got presumably quite a decent budget. It
doesn't make sense
to fit.
No, it's the wrong film, isn't it? For that, it's not. That's just not the kind of film it is. And also, it's black and white. So I mean,
and it's based in the 70s. So what?
Yeah.
So if they'd had like a I don't know, like a Magimix food blender appear, you'd be like, well, that wasn't around in the 70s. Anyway.
Well, there are moments where they're eating food, and then what characters, are shown to be drinking drinks. But I imagine that is Coke.
And that's right. And then she says, "I do love this Coca-Cola."
She doesn't say that at all. It's not the Truman Show.
Do you remember that bit in Wayne's World? I can't remember if it was one or two, where they really ham it up about product placement.
But by the way, don't think I didn't notice. In your poem, you said that not laugh a minute. But there is one sequence, I would say, that is pretty funny, where they're all training to be martial artists. That is.
It doesn't really. Yeah, it was quite a sort of stuck out a bit, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll know what we mean when you.
So we won't go into it, but basically, it's this guy does this maneuver, this kind of move, which he says is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And everyone around him's like, "What?" And then they all try and do it, and they can't do it. Did you try it yourself, Rob?
No, I was sitting on my bottom. You see, so I mean, I didn't really want to get up.
I tried it, couldn't do it.
You did it?
No, I couldn't do it.
Oh, you couldn't do it. Okay.
Got my daughter to try, couldn't do it.
It did look difficult.
My wife's got great balance. She couldn't do it. We all did it. We all had a go.
What? So you were all sitting around watching Roma together?
No, this was after it. I'm not going to show a 5-year-old this film, am I?
Well, you might. I mean, you probably wouldn't actually. No, actually. Yeah.
No. So no, this was afterwards. I said, "Can you do this?" And none of us could.
Brilliant. Well, it's good that we're bringing the magic of cinema into our homes.
So let's. I'm going to read you a couple of reviews. All right. So these are not. I was expecting someone to say, "What was all that about?" Do you want the good one or the bad one first?
Good one.
Tim Will 014-1.
Yeah.
This is an absolutely stunning, unforgettable film. Good God, Quaron is a fantastic director. He's also the cinematographer, and his superb work on this simply couldn't be improved upon. He has perfectly cast the film from top to bottom and has guided the non-pro who plays the lead to embody her character to an extent that is truly remarkable. And it goes on for a bit, and then it says, however, I want to urge everyone to please, capital letters, see this in a cinema with a great sound system. The sound mixing alone is extraordinary. Like, give the sound mixer the Oscar already.
Definitely the case. I mean, there's a section at the start where you can literally close your eyes, and it's like being in Mexico City. I mean, I don't think there's many films you can say get the sound to that level of.
Is it that they go that bit? Was that a bit
not
racist?
That bit.
It wasn't meant to be. It was meant to be.
It wasn't racist. It was just.
It was disrespectful.
The genius of Alfonso Cuarón. Go on, right? Go on. The bad one.
The bad one. The headline. Actually, I won't. I'll just read it.
Go on.
I can't believe the reviews of this rip-off of the Italian cinema of the 50s and 60s. It started with the opening scene of the water being splashed on a floor. I not only found it jarring, but interminable. 1 or 2 splashes would have sufficed. I lost count after 6 or 7. He's counting the splashes. This is Neil 15. Hi, Neil. Glad you're listening.
He's not listening. Is that it?
No, he goes on.
Go on, carry on.
I am confused when an auteur, that's in, rabbit ears. What do you call it? It's not rabbit ears. Speech marks.
Speech marks.
He uses a sledgehammer where delicacy and respect for the intelligence of the viewer could suffice. The film seems to be being touted as an Oscar contender. I don't get it. Goes on like that.
Okay.
The Italian reference, right?
Yeah, so he's talking about Fellini, basically. I watched.
He does mention Fellini.
Yeah, I watched 8.5 a few weeks ago, and can I be absolutely honest with you? I thought it was a pile of dung. It was rubbish.
8.5.
Yeah, which has been acknowledged as like the second best film of all time.
I thought you were doing the IMDb score early. I thought this was a.
No, I'm not. No, it's his 8.5 film. So he'd made 7 films before. And
when did that come out? Is that?
It's 58, 59, something like that.
Okay.
Is
it on Netflix, Rob? If it's not, why are we talking about it?
Well, no, but it's on my DVD shelf. So,
you're going to send it round to both of our listeners?
If they want it, they can have it. I don't really want it anymore now.
Okay.
But no, my point is that if he means that it's like Italian cinema like that, then I'd rather have this than that. If you see what I mean. But I'll be honest, I haven't seen much Italian cinema from the 50s and 60s. But I have seen one film which is supposed to be the pinnacle of it and didn't like it. So,
guess how much Italian cinema of the 1950s and 1960s I've seen, Rob?
I would hazard a guess that you have not seen any at all.
That's a good guess. I just want to read the last bit of this review. I walked out of the movie after about 90 minutes, and I'm very sorry I did not walk out an hour earlier. Can you really give a review if you don't get to the end?
You can't. No, I mean, this is the thing. Do you know what? We were going out tonight. I was finishing watching this. We were supposed to go somewhere. We were a little bit late, and Anna said, "Look, we've got to go." I said, "No, I've got to finish the end of this." She was like, "I'll watch it later." I said, "I can't. We've got to do the podcast."
Yeah.
And so she said,
Priorities.
Look at the Wikipedia page or something. I was like,
I can't go and see your dying aunt. We've got to record a podcast for nobody. Yeah, I just think though that's a bit rude, isn't it, to not see the end of a film? You know, I don't wish to really dig in hard to Neil 15 because he's had a bad year, but
clearly,
I just think, come on, Neil, watch the last half an hour.
Just keep going. I mean, once you've got that far through, you might as well.
Exactly.
So I would give this an 8.
And what do you think that the
average
IMDb average is?
Probably at this stage, because it's very recently out and all the people who love it will have seen it straight away and commented and marked on it. I just expect it somewhere between 8 and 9.
Do you want to be slightly more specific? This is a feature.
8.4.
That's right, Rob. You actually got it right.
Well, exactly
8.4. 8.4 out of 10.
Wow, I'm very proud of myself.
That's amazing. We should have some sort of money on this.
Oh,
That's amazing. Yeah. I'm just taken aback. 17,000 people have given the score and they averaged 8.4. What I think is a bit strange is that we have a 1 to 10 scale, but nearly everything, or the difference between a 6 and an 8 for something like IMDb or something is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't use the full breadth of the 1 to 10.
And no one really cares. Once you get to about 5, no one cares below 5. There's
crap. I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah. So what's the point of that?
Rubbish. All right. So, I mean, I don't know if we can really do a sort of comparison of these three: Dumplin, Roma, and 2 different films about the Northeast.
Well, I think there's three different strands there, aren't there? There's one that's the feel-good film that is very popular and is the way most people take in TV and cinema now. They just want to feel good and have an enjoyable time. There's a sort of more arty housey kind of thing with Roma, where you kind of got a bit of critical thought, maybe thinking, reflection necessary to watch that. And then you've got like a sort of a cultural thing, really, which is the documentary format. Which it'd be good if every time we do this podcast, we almost have different kinds of things, because then you get a much better.
You see, I want to have more TV and it's not because I'm some sort of trashy idiot that watches a lot of TV, but
no,
I contest, right? Over the last 10 years, TV has leapt forwards in terms of quality, and film has always been at that sort of quality, and has actually now more or less moved to a huge number of franchises and sequels and whatever.
I hear and read that a lot, and that's a lot of what a lot of people think. But I have always been more a fan of the cinema format, not least because you can watch an entire story in 2 hours, or there's no doubt.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but you kind of when you compare the things like House of Cards from the early 90s to the recent House of Cards, the way they're produced is so different. The modern one just looks like a film.
But that's because the techniques of film have been transferred to the TV, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've made them more cinematic, the style. The budget, has obviously gone up, and that's part of it. But I feel like I still want to see short form pieces, because I find it impossible to watch the amount of TV that there is. I mean,
there's too much. That's why we're here, Rob. We're going to choose the best bits.
Okay, well, I'm happy to watch some episodes. I do need to see more TV. I have recognised that in myself, that I'm not up with certain things that I'd like to be up with, and new things, because I think that's the thing, is that so much is coming onto Netflix. We've got so much each week, even not even just each month, that just keeping up with it is difficult.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really watch it all, and what tends to happen is that with the film, if you've given an hour to it, you think, well, I might as well get to the end. With a TV series, sometimes you'll watch the first series and it's starting to lose its appeal, You're like, well, I kind of want to see how it ends now. And then you look at it, and there's another 132 episodes to go. And you're like, oh, crumbs. And you kind of, and you know it's going to get gradually worse.
I think maybe the difference between us is that you watch the first series and I just probably missed the first series, then see there's 3 series that have come out. And then I'm like, well.
Now I look at the reviews, to be honest. I look at like, is it actually any good? Is it worth my time getting into it?
Yeah, that's
otherwise it's
good tactic.
Otherwise you're just going to end up watching the last 4 series of Dexter for no reason.
Yeah,
which is what I did. So right, so that's it. The plan is, right, when we're slightly more professional, that we will at this point announce next month's things, right?
But we're not
then both of our listeners, Neil and what was his name? The angry ones. I just want the angry ones. I want the one at Neil 15 and the other guy who weren't listening, who was on IMDb, to be clear. But anyway, they will then be able to say, oh, look, they're watching these 3. We'll watch it. We can comment at the same time. And then it'll be a, wonderful, wholesome experience. But we haven't done that, have we?
So just tune in next time. If that's still the terminology we use, tuning in.
Tune in.